All right, so I am going to get this space started. Thank you guys so much. I was actually talking on mute to myself while it was muted, but I want to recognize that I have now learned how to mute any incoming callers so I won't get bumped off the space anymore while I'm hosting this. And again, I'm Sherry Naudine. I'm the owner of Collegiate Sports Advocate. We are clearly the number one service because we're not just recruiting, we do all kinds of things. We have 948 student athletes nationwide, and we have 480 committed. This is kind of our down commitment time of year, but you'll see a whole bunch coming up. We have 53 class of 2024 already committed. So just a little plug there, but we are here every Monday, 8 p.m. Last week we had Coach Weekly who discussed the calendar with us because the previous week to that, we had Coach Moore from Baylor talking about his winning culture with 1,000 wins under his belt. So they kind of evolved because in the conversation with Coach Weekly, we brought up the topic tonight that Coach Alameda is going to be talking about. And it is the recruiting culture. How do you recruit culture? And what are some of the components of that? So, Jackie, our co host, is on vacation. I'm going to switch it over to Coach Alameda. If you want to come off mute and introduce yourself and a little bit about your in depth background, and then go ahead and let me know some of the culture of recruiting.
Well, hello. Thank you for having me. Always like trying new things, and this is something new for me. Doing a little Twitter live, so pretty cool. A little bit about me. Got me into my 15th season here at Florida State. Pretty exciting. Time flies. Doesn't even feel like 15 years. So I guess when you have good culture, you're happy where you're at, and time flies, which is pretty cool. I'm a West Coast girl from California, but have been to many different places in my playing and coaching career. So, again, alluding to culture, when you get uncomfortable and grow as a human. So, I went to Oklahoma and played way long way from my hometown in Sacramento, California. And then I ended up starting my coaching career in Miami, Florida. And then got back to Stanford, went down to Vegas, came around here, and ended up back in the state of Florida. But a lot of different experiences that allow me to share and try to grow this team, these girls in this program. So um, yeah. So that's a
I,
little bit.
I was getting, yeah, I was gonna. What an amazing background and all the places you've been. I think that is really going to be a great insight for you on teaching some of those listeners what culture means to you. So some of the things that have been happening, in our sport, and of course I'm in my ninth year, so I've seen it. Is the culture on the in the game is kind of changed. It's a lot more emotional. It's a lot more exciting, and we used to hear, oh, keep your emotions, like a stone face for some of the pitchers, and now we're seeing, emotion and passion and excitement. And I just wondered, is there a particular type of behavior or culture or enthusiasm that you recruit there at Florida State?
Yeah, I think it's super cool to see that females are okay in showing their emotions, where for so long our emotions generally got, crying, like girls would cry, right? Like got to the you never really got to the anger side, where you see in male sports anger and muchísimo is a little bit more of their emotion. And now you see, like in Major League Baseball and some other sports, they're like having home run celebrations in dugouts, and they got their chains and they got their fun stuff like softball had. And now you see female sports going to a little bit of anger sometimes, like the baseball had. So it's kind of fun to see how the culture of emotion and kind of the emotion chart has flown to both sides, the male and female sports. So I think, a lot of times when you think about it, these young ladies and women put so much time and effort into being the best version of themselves. At some point you're going to get frustrated, and you've got to be real. So when you want to grow as a person and you want to grow as a player, you've got to be real with your emotions and tap into that. So I really want to see what is frustration to you, what is anger to you, what is that emotion to you, just as much as I want to see elation and happy and giddy. Like if I can see all those emotions, then I can help you try to be more consistent. And so what really is your tipping point in the anger side that I can bring you back down into a green light, and what's your emotion on the happy side that I can bring you back down to a green light, so we can be more consistent when we go on the field. So I think sometimes in recruiting, want to see players compete in high and low moments, and like see what kind of emotions and pendulums they have. Only know because they want to be the best they can be. So the one emotion I see that locks up a lot of players is fear of failure. And that's the one thing that we really try to free up. So you see kids fear to perform in front of coaches and recruiting. You see kids fear, when they get into college, like, oh man, do I belong here? But if you can really start to tap into the human being and what they want, then you can start to manage those emotions. And I think that's a huge culture piece that that's a hat coaches wear, is try to help them be comfortable with who they are, so then they don't have big emotional swings.
That's incredible and so packed full of so much information. I don't even know how to dissect it. But it leads me to the next thought is, do you see a type of culture or type of behavior or swag in a team? I know some teams cheer different, they approach the pregame differently, they approach the plate differently. Do you see anything like that that's enticing?
Yeah, I think it's funny. I've been chatting with a lot of people about that. I realize that we in softball have had to create our own energy. And you look at football or basketball, they have cheerleaders, right? They have yell leaders, they have people on the side to create energy and create this like swag in the stadium or on the court, right? Baseball and softball really have never had like yell leaders or cheerleaders for that kind of stuff. So baseball's a little older, in its history, but they got like that talk, they chatter a ton on the field and talk a ton, where softball's not really had a ton of people at games. And so our history shows that we cheer a lot. And when you sing songs and you cheer, it creates energy, and we want energy. Everybody wants energy. Have energy in the dugout. Have energy in the dugout. Well, how do you have energy and how do you get people to be external versus internal? Is cheering, is playing music, is doing things, right? So when you now dissect, how can I connect that to being engaged and have intent on the field so I can engage with my teammates? So you look at a lot of people that either they cheer and they're just relentless in their cheering. Totally cool, a lot of fun, got a lot of vibe in the dugout. Or you have people that talk the game and cheer the game, like she got a base hit, she got a base hit, whatever, but it's about the game and it's connecting to the game. And then you have some people that really go, to me, sometimes they go to a very negative place and they go against the other team, and they cheer against the other team. And so it's kind of funny when you watch teams and you watch that flow of what that looks like. But all in end is everyone's trying to create energy and they're trying to be engaged and want to be external. So I tip my cap to all of them, and I just think that we talk a lot about it at our program. We talk about how to connect a very external vibe in the dugout to meet what's happening on the field. So now our 2 hours of game time of getting out there is really connected with our energy. And you can't be all in for 2 hours, 3 hours, 60 games a season. You can't, but you can ebb and flow the energy and you can be external. And so we talk a lot about that.
I love it. And I always like to mention that the families and the crowd are part of the game. We came from Southern California, and there was a team called Lakewood Ladies that turned into the Firecrackers, and they were just notorious for these families that sat together and they created their own cheers. And they said we help the girls change their momentum and their culture on the field. If they're down or they're having a rough inning, the parents got into it and cheered together and had, just a way to bring their heads back into it. And
Yeah.
that team won nationals in 14 under. It was just crazy. And we really saw that the family was part of that. Do you still see that out there?
Yeah, 100%. I had the experience of being part of international softball and training over in Japan. And, I've been to a Japanese baseball game, and the excitement to cheer for their team, like there's no negative in that environment. Everything's positive and it's cheering for their team. And they cheer for their team when they're at bat. And when their team's on defense, they get quiet and they allow the other team to cheer for their team. And it's like this really cool vibe of positive energy and connection to like all the things that are happening offensively on the field. And it was like fun. You want to be there, you want to be a part of it. And I know some of these families, and you look at some of these cheering sections, student sections, or just some um, really big supportive people that are at the games all the time, right? Like, we have some consistent fans that come to the game and they get into it and they're about the players and they're about it and they bring this really good energy, and it connects for sure. Baseball and softball are so connected to their fans, like a lot of the softball fields, like you're right, the chairs are right around the stadium, everyone's connected. So I 100% think yes, like this game is a game of failure and you can get so internal so quickly, and then all of a sudden you have something that's external and it's cheering and it's about the next pitch and the next opportunity and good people. And so I think that's great to have that.
And that's awesome because, like, my son was one of those Aggie sugar daddies back in the day, and I was like, "Oh, that's somebody's daughter. Why are you yelling?"
Yeah.
And we chatted about it today before the space because it's meant to be fun and it's meant
Yeah.
to have a good time. But boy, it throws some people off their game.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a Baylor A&M game where the crowd got into it. And what do you think about that? Is that a place for the coach, or is that a place for your staff? To control the fans, and how they approach the game.
I think all we can do as a coach and as a team is control our circle. We had a pretty good environment this last weekend, and the game was pretty heated and the fans got crazy, and we just circled up as a team, and all we can control is this circle. And all we can control is our left and our right and the people that are looking at us, because we're the ones that have been through the journey together. And what other people have to say or throw at us, in their comments or whatever it is, it doesn't really matter, but it's all about the atmosphere. Awesome. Like, they're cheering for their team and they're all about their team. That's good, but we're about us. So I think when you have a good culture in your system, you can bounce that stuff off you and not let it become a thing. I also think too, if you do a really good job as a coach and a teammate, and you understand when people are going to their red lights, when people are starting to lose it, and they're getting to that anger moment or frustration moment, you have a good culture as a team and a teammate to pull them back in. So now those fans don't get to them, and then you lose one of your people. So I do think culture is really, really important, to understand how emotions are handled within teams and teammates. And then when you get to people on the outside trying to burst our bubble there, trying to get into our circle, they can't, because we are just about ourselves. And so, totally cool. If other teams want to get after you, if people want to say stuff, not a big deal. Here I am. I'm one pitch, man. I'm just one pitch right now, whether it's pitching it, hitting it, fielding it. I'm right here and I'm with my teammates.
Love it, love it. I just want to remind the audience as you're coming in, make sure you friend myself. I'm collegiate sports advocate, my co-host Jackie, and Coach Alameda. And then put any of your questions up on our message board there on the Twitter space, or privately to me. We'll read them out here because she is a Division I coach, so we have compliance things that we have to handle. Which was my next question, Coach Alameda. Do you remember in the College World Series? And I just remember seeing UCLA with all the palms and the bananas and all the things on their head, and then they kind of ruled against it. What is your thought about some of the dugout stuff that has been, I guess, illegal?
Yeah. I think in 2014 when we went to the World Series, we were pretty big in photo bombing, or interview bombing, and we did a lot of that stuff back in 2014 and 2015. And it's super cool. Like, we were just, I think, as a sport, we were just starting to get on TV pretty consistently. We were, so it was like something fun and new. Now, many years later, TV is pretty normal for softball and college, and they tried to reel in a little of the professionalism, and they told us to not, have the photo bombing. And then all of a sudden, Major League Baseball went into all this crazy stuff with the chains and all that. And so it's like, I think there's a line of silliness and seriousness. And I think if we want to go to a level in our sport, we need to have a level of professionalism, but we also need to be real. They're kids and they're having fun. So I don't know if, like, to have all the toys in the dugout, or can we go to old school days of, I've seen people with like gloves on their heads or the water cups or things that are there inside, versus things that are bought at a store. So that's just, I guess, my personal opinion on those sides. But I think, I mean, it is a sport, and we're just a bunch of people that really love sport, and you've got to have fun while you're doing the sport. So that line of professionalism and enjoyment of us being out there for 3 hours, and getting after things. So So I can say I've been a part of those days of doing that, and I've tried to really come back to, how can we keep growing our sport and be real with the followers, and they fall in love with the game and the people that are playing it, and then we don't get too silly on the other side of it.
Love it, and I think of the authenticity of it, right? Like, there's some players on OU that we know personally, man, when they're excited, they're excited. That's who they are, and they've always been that way,
Mm-hmm.
and then we've seen the bat flip, and now we've seen a finger flip, and we're seeing a little bit of a different level of emotion. Is that good or bad, or how do we, encourage it or not encourage it? Do we force that individuality, or do we squash it?
Yeah, well, I think like anything, we're gonna have moments where we make mistakes, So when you say genuine and true, I mean, you have players that they're 18, 19, 20-year-old kids. They're put in a lot of pressure situations. We're all gonna make mistakes. Fortunately for me, I wasn't really under the glass eye of the social media world to like judge me all the time, right? So now these kids are getting judged all the time, and there's got to be a little grace for their growth. And so I think that if they make a mistake, there should be a genuine apology. And then we grow and we move on from it. And if it's something that stays consistent in a program, then that's probably the culture of the program. And it's okay, own who you are and do what you do. But I mean, we got a really good opportunity to showcase something incredible about the sport, and that is we're all very proud of the growth of it. They're all really strong, amazing women getting after some really cool opportunities. And if we can keep that in the front headlights here, then we're going to go some places with this game.
I love it. And then it brought up one of the reasons that I called you is, do you ever sacrifice the culture and the type of person that you're looking at for the talent layer? You have to go after that top level kid. But what if there's a cultural misfit? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that there's ever a misfit in the sense like we're all these kids are growing in college, so it's opportunity. Everyone has a chance for opportunity. Yes, we are running a business, and the business is bottom line W's at some point. Like, I can't stay in this program if I'm not winning as the head coach. That's the business plan. On the other side of it, my belief is to have a really good culture to grow strong women through the game of softball. So my values are in line to the culture piece, but I also know the bottom line is I've got to win. So with that, you've got to get players that can play at this level. And then you've got to, when you get the opportunity for them to come in, now we start to grow as character moments and growth moments. But we pour a ton into the culture. Culture just doesn't show up. Like, when you get recruited to a program, you are a part of that program and you're a part of that culture. So you've got to give to it. It just doesn't give to you. And so that's probably one of the biggest things is when people ask about culture, like, it's not just you put it on a t-shirt and you got it. Like, you've got to earn it. We got to earn it as a team. We got to talk about things. We got to get through the highs and lows. Like, that's what family is. That's what culture is. It's how you live and it's how you handle things. So I don't know if there's ever been a kid that I'm like, oh, bad culture or bad character kid. More of like, this would be great opportunity. Let's get in the system and let's start to love up the system and talk about things, and then we're going to grow. So we've always been very fortunate with that.
That's a great perspective. And it leads into a question from the audience. Coach Alameda, when you are considering a prospective student athlete, and I'm going to give my little insight here, it might open another can of worms. What are you hoping for to see on their social media, and what raises red flags to you and your staff?
Um, I think social media again is kind of a tough one because I think if you're not generally who you are on social media, then you're not going to really grow as a person, right? So, like, I think you've got to be like, I really want to know the people coming into the program, and social media is such a good window into what kind of music you like, what you like to do outside of softball, how you work in softball. Like, it literally gives you a little like look into people's worlds. So I think if you're faking it on the front side, then you're losing an opportunity to really find the place you're going to fit. So when you're looking to go to school, like, you want to be a happy person. Happy people make good softball players. So it's not always about the end result of softball. It's about the growth of you and what's the place that you're going to grow. So if the coach now can see the person they're recruiting, they can know that that fit's going to be really good for them for their next 40 years of their life, right? Because the 4 years are giving you a chance for the 40 years. So it's I think the more genuine, the more honest you are, the more insight to all other things. I mean, you got family, you got vacations, you got passion of other than just sports, I think are all really cool things. Because now when the recruiting September 1 hits, I have more things to chat with you about, more things to look into. I also think it's a great recruiting tool. Back in the day, it was VHS tapes and disk drives, and now you can just go straight to Twitter and you can go straight to Instagram and you can see all kinds of workout stuff and ground balls and fly balls and pitching and like all kinds of things. Like it's just a one-stop shop of who I am and how I do it. So I don't think there's ever been oh, I'm not going to recruit this kid because this is on social media. It's more about like, oh, I'd really like to talk to them about this. So I just think it's a really good insight to things.
Incredible, and, most of the people that know me know I spent 28 years in sales and marketing, and I do a really intense, social media training for our student athletes, and I'm coming up on a revamp of it, and I'm gonna be adding how to kind of start to build their NIL content and, activity base so that at some point that they might be able to utilize that to help them through college. And it goes in line with another question here from a student athlete, like how early do they get started to where you would be, and she used the word recruit, but it's not recruit, it's just showing interest or, reviewing them. So what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're recruiting all the time, like it's just nonstop. It's even though this season right now we're in our season, we still flip through Twitter, we still get information from people, we still have coaches call, we still have kids email, and then you go on and you follow up. So like it's all the time thing for us. So and I think that's all the time, all the way up to junior year. Like I don't think there's nothing's too early and nothing's too late. Like, you can be late into close to your junior year and still have great opportunities because your growth spurt was a little bit later or someone got a new head coaching job. I mean, there's just so many opportunities to do it. So um, the end all isn't having the greatest Twitter site and Instagram site. The end all isn't having so many likes and hit. The end all is loving every single day and letting your path figure out your path, because there's a chance for everyone if they just put their head down and get after it. And so, but yeah, it's 24/7 recruiting. We're always on there. We're always flipping through stuff. I think that to us, like, you really want someone to be at your school just as much as you want them to be at the school. We are going to be grinding out together as coaches and players, and you have to love the people you're around and the place that you're at to really get after the level of success you want to get to. So be genuine on that social media, and it doesn't always have to be social media. We have a couple players on our team that are not about it at all, and that's fine too. Like they found their way. They don't like to spend the time on social media. They like to be more reading books and do things, and they're here and they're doing their thing. So that it's not the end all be all of social media by any means.
And if I might add there too, we've learned, and I think you and I both can see it, if a parent is running the social media site, it gives a little different look and feel and choice of language. And we've always tried to say, when you engage personally, it becomes more authentic and it shows who you are as a person, not so much your parent trying to self promote you out on social media. And, we can definitely see the difference between the people that are trying to promote their student athlete versus telling the story or getting to know them. And I love Instagram for that because it kind of has a little bit more of fun and friendship, where Twitter seems to be really, kind of tagging coaches and things like that.
Yeah.
Is this too much of a formal question to ask you? Do you like to be tagged on social media posts?
Yeah, yeah, I think it's great. Um, I'm every program's gonna be different. So there's gonna be one coach maybe at social media, one coach that's emails, one coach that's letter, one coach looks at recruiting, one coach so I think as prospects, like you don't know. So tag all the people you want and keep putting it out there. I think that's some people ask, oh, I don't want to be annoying. Like be annoying. If that's the place you want to go, like this is your opportunity. So yeah, 100%. Yeah. Don't mind that at all.
Awesome. And I know you hit it because there is, 1,650 coaches, and so many of them tell us they don't like it. So that's why I ask you honestly, because a lot of them say that they feel hijacked, or they, can't manage it because there's not enough staff to manage it. And then the one thing I see on the reverse side for a student athlete is, did you expose yourself and give away your hand? What if you can't play for Florida State and you're not tagging the coaches you could play for? So from a marketing perspective, you got to get somebody to give you a little guidance of who you should be tagging and
Yep.
kind of what layer you should be in. So I see a lot of them do it at camp, and I think that's a nice thank you. And I'm kind of old fashioned. I like the little handwritten thank you note,
Yeah.
because it's personal, and
Yeah.
you can actually see that they can handwrite.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. A lot of people
So
don't do that anymore. I know. Yeah.
yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
Um, so I am trying to read some comments here, and we've just got a few. So I want to remind everybody, but while I'm putting them out here, if you have any other questions or any other comments in here. So here's one. I have noticed that the game is getting longer to finish. Sometimes a 7 inning game has went longer than a 9 inning baseball game. Do you think softball needs a pitching clock similar to baseball to speed up the games?
Yeah, I think it would be outstanding. I think keeping our foot in the box. Again, able to coach international for many years, and the international rules are awesome. The 20-second clock, the foot in the box. Like, there's all really cool things out there that I think we have talked about in our organization. And now that you see what Major League Baseball's done, you see what our NCAA baseball is doing. I think we're probably down the line to be able to make some of those adjustments too. So I agree. Sometimes it's um you know just calling pitches in. We take forever a lot of times to call pitches in. Like, we could get just an ebb and flow going a little bit better. So I agree.
And then another one was, and I don't know if you want to talk about your players in general, is just, I don't know if it's Jana or Jania Kerr. How good can she be once it all comes together?
She can be amazing. Yes. Janai is her name. Yeah. Yeah.
Janai, okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, she's an incredible human. For anyone that ever goes through an injury, she had a ACL tear, and one of our other players, Holloway Kaser, tore ACL also. And it takes a while to come back and fully trust it. And I think that's um, fortunate or unfortunate. I've been around a lot of players that have had that, and it's made them better people, because they have to learn some different ways to compete and train and take care of their bodies. And she is on that course and doing incredible.
Awesome. So here's one that this gentleman's put in a couple, but I think one would be interesting. What was it like winning the national championship in 2018? And I was there. It was
Yeah.
awesome.
Gosh, I can't even put it into words. I mean, elation for sure, but I would say probably the biggest one is just very proud of everything. There's a lot of people that had told us we couldn't do it in this conference, that it wasn't a strong enough conference to be able to do it, and I think that's what even made me a little more excited to, like, show people that you could open another door to a conference. And now look at our conference, like, so cool with what everyone's doing and how much fun it's been to compete week in and week out. So I would say, if I had to put one word, just the pride, and everything that was done, from the players on the field, to our conference representing it, to just doing it for Florida State. So yeah, super cool.
Well, and if I don't recall it correctly, correct me, but I thought you guys lost in one of the pool play, and then you just came back on fire. I mean, it was a fever. You could feel it in the stands.
Oh yeah, no, we for sure take the hardest route always. Even in 21, when we made the champ series against Oklahoma, we definitely lost the first game. It seems to be our MO. And but when you get to that point and your back's against the wall, and it's just, you're gonna survive and move on, and then it just really unites you. So I think that's been our MOs for some reason.
Yeah, it was so funny because I mean, you could see it and feel it,
Yeah.
sitting there in the stands. So I always encourage everybody on the call, go see games and go see all layers of the game. Not everybody can go to the College World Series. Go see a local junior college. Go see an NAIA. Go see them all. It's amazing when you see it live. And I bragged a lot about Ruby, seeing her live. I sat behind home plate at Mary Nutter, and I mean, she scared me. She was just so amazing. I was like, my goodness, where did you come from? It was incredible to sit that close and see it live. So I always say it's hard to understand where you can play unless you actually see it live. So,
Yeah.
Jackie, I don't know if I'm missing any questions on here. I'm trying to get them. Normally, Jackie and I go back and forth because it's hard to read as you're doing it. So let's see here. It's another one. I give you a lot of props of getting Sydney Sherrill out of Oklahoma and away from OSU and OU. I'm not sure where she's going with that, but I'll let you have fun with that one.
Yeah. Well, I just think Sid was looking at a lot of players when you're looking at schools to go to. Sometimes it's nice to go down the street or somewhere you're comfortable with, or sometimes it's nice to get out of state and maybe grow. And I think it was really great for Sid to Oklahoma is a great program. I, of course, went to school there years ago, but she was only 20 minutes away from, the stadium. And so go a couple states away and grow as a person. And it was I know she would say the best decision for her, but for us, it was so awesome to see her come and grow as a person in our program. And then, of course, everything she did on the field for us was just next level.
Incredible. So here's another one that just popped in. Do you have a culture in your program where each year you give the older players the chance first and then younger players have to beat them out for the spot in the lineup?
Nope, it's everybody. You show up in September and we get after it. And, I think the one thing that I have really enjoyed over the years is to see some of the older kids mentor the younger ones. We do not have a culture of, oh, you're coming in as a freshman to beat me out. I'm not going to share anything with you. I think that's a super healthy culture that we have is there's true mentorship from the upperclassmen to the younger ones to it's a lot as a freshman you come in or as a rookie, maybe even a transfer at times because again, like, how do you guys do things, like, who's going to help me along in this? And then as a freshman, like, I'm leveling up to college. What is it like? What's a full season like? So many kids play club ball and they don't know what it's like to play practice for 4 months. You're straight practicing for 4 months before you even play, right? They're playing club ball where they're playing every single weekend all the time. Like, this is true practice. We're trying to get better. You're trying to work on your craft, and then you're displaying it in a 60 game schedule to win the ultimate goal in June. So that's a lot. And so I think mentorship is huge. And yeah, I mean, the best play, we have to, right? We talked about the business, the best play. And but experience goes a long way when you see kids that know the system and know the game and can do the things experience wise. That's big for us.
Awesome. Another message I got here is how has the portal changed the game for you in recruiting?
I think the portal has been I think it's been around a long time. I had player when I played, way back in the day, we had junior college transfers and we had transfers. The portal has just been blown up into this thing where, on Twitter and social media, it goes to like portal players but transfers have been around a long time. And I think it's, important when you're trying to find a team that can go to the next level, sometimes due to injury or players that maybe didn't pan out or people that want to leave, you have to fill those positions. So now it's a little bit easier in the portal to go in and try to find someone. And I don't know how easy it is to go in as a player and find the school you want to go to. I think probably sometimes that can be a little scary, but I definitely think it's an opportunity to maybe get a chance, especially with COVID. When COVID like overlapped a lot of years, we'll have another year of this. That COVID overlapped years, so people have a COVID season to play, and maybe they can't do it at that school to take their grad program. They have to find another grad program somewhere. So I think it's been really cool for us. We have a lot of transfers come into our program. A lot of them we recruited before, so we have relationships with them already, and so it's kind of nice to get them in the program, work with them again, and that's been fun. So every program does it a little bit differently, but I think it's really good for the game.
Yeah, and I too had seen the transfers for years and years, and I thought, gosh, why do we need to advertise this? But it gives everybody an equal and fair chance. But I don't think it's always what it's meant to be. A lot of
Yeah.
people go in it very uneducated, and I stay with them till they graduate college in my program. So I'm like, oh, don't go in the portal first. Let's talk first. Let's do our control, no control, influence models, and see what we can do to resolve those. And I loved what you said about you recruited these kids, all of you coaches, you watch so many, your eyes are always on so many, every kid, where they landed, and you keep your eyes on it. And that's something I think people need to remember. We do something of thanking each coach and calling them before they accept the position in order to keep that relationship alive and build it, not for transfer, but just to respect everybody's time in the process. What do you think of that?
Yep. No, I mean, again, bottom line is business. And so the sooner that coaches know and the sooner that players know, you can move on and try to find the right fit for your program. So I know it's really hard. And it's probably one of the first times that these young women have had to tell someone, I made a decision, and they have to tell people no. And that's hard to do sometimes, but it's part of growing and, taking ownership of now your journey and your past. So, yeah, I think it's really important to be able to have those tough conversations. And again, you never know down the line, where you run into that person again, or, how that matches up. So I think a little humility is good.
Awesome. We see it a lot because kind of the same layer comes after you. So I'm like, hey, don't forget they vote for you for conference awards. You
Yeah.
know, be nice, be professional, leave it on a good note.
Yeah.
I've got another question here. If possible, ask if the additional seats and new spaces added to the cultural feel at the FSU games this season.
Yeah, I my gosh. So we have an addition of decking out in left field. Then we have some premier seating above our bullpen, and it has for sure. We always talk about part of our core values, and one of them is family. And our fans are like our family, and that's extended family of ours. And to see everyone just chilling on the decking, and bringing their own chairs and just relaxing out there, and having this really cool atmosphere in the ballpark has solidified, part of our core values with our fans. And so it's been really nice. But the parking garage is still going strong. The street's still going strong. There's still some really cool, unique things to the Plex for us that we love.
Awesome. Another one is watching the game this weekend. This parent saw tons of speed on both sides. Is your team being fast by design, meaning some schools seem to be more hitter focused, but your program seems to be a balance between power and speed?
Yeah, I think you know, uh, Travis Wilson works a ton with our offense, and we've always taken pride in our base running. So I don't know if you have to be the fastest, although I would say that we do like to have some fast players, and our strength coach, Coach Vic Bailey Victoria, has been amazing in just our strength overall. So strength and speed, to be able to have the whole season, and to be strong at the last part of your season, that takes time and effort. And then to get those extra 60 feet, everyone knows how important that is. So that's more of a smart part, and understanding. We spend a lot of time in understanding how to play the game. Um, and yes, and Clemson was a fast team too, and they like to run. And so, it makes it fun when you're applying pressure. It makes it fun. And those are those little quick things you got to, be a little bit smarter to know where you're throwing the ball, because, like they are going and they're fast. And so that was quite fun this weekend.
And somebody else asked about the 2021 regionals. Was that just a wild one or what?
I mean, they've all been wild, I think, but yes. Yeah. I mean, we've been fortunate to have a few clubs that we compete against quite a bit. UCLA, LSU, that's LSU one was just wild for us. And you build up your whole season, and you get to know each other as teammates, and you get to know your team. And sometimes you really don't know what your team's about until maybe you get towards the end of conference play. And everyone's working so hard so they can make a run in postseason. It's like a new season, right? You get into postseason, there's 64 teams, and you're just relying on everything you've done during the season. So, it's a whole thing is you're going to fall back on the level of your training. Well, the level of our training has been this season that we got after. And so I think when you start to go on that run and trust who you are and what you do, it makes postseason so much fun. But if you're still searching for the team that you are, then you don't know, you can't really fall back on anything because you don't know. And so we've tend to get into postseason and start to really like get after some different things. Sometimes it's big swings, sometimes it's pitching and defense, sometimes it's just really manufacturing runs and base running. And it's fun to see the team own that and have fun with it. So that was a bit of LSU series that we had at their place. At Michigan a long time ago, in 14, super fun, big swing to end the game. There's just been some really big moments, and we couldn't be more proud for our kids to have those moments for themselves.
Awesome. And now it's your turn. What do you want to tell the prospective student athlete recruiting audience out here? And is there a message or something interesting that has been on your mind that you would want us to know?
I think I can just share on the side that, I'm fortunate to have the opportunity to continue to coach freshmen every year coming in. And I think that sometimes the expectation can outweigh the experience. That they hold this huge expectation to where they think they should be, or what they think they should be doing, versus really experiencing everything and continuing to grow. So when you come in and you're ready to just really enjoy the day-to-day experience and really dig into the little things about your journey in college, and that's going to be, you know, knowing, how to cook, knowing how to learn how to train. Like training in the college level is different than what you've ever done before. And when parents are driving you to club tournaments and parents are taking you places, and now you have to go figure out how you want your schedule to be. How do I want to work in my extra hitting? How do I want to work in my extra glove work? Like, where do I want to get smarter in this part? Like, you have to take control of that. And that's a full experience of figuring out the player that you want to be. So, when you let the expectation start to weigh you down, it's really hard to sift through day to day experiences. So, I think that's one of the biggest things I see. And again, that would go back to the very first question you asked about the emotion, and when people bottle up their expectations, all of a sudden the emotions start to pour out later because they're so frustrated, and frustration is a part of our game and failure is a part of our game. And but when we can layer it back and be like, man, I really enjoy the experience and what I'm learning today and how I can get better today, and you come with that mindset every day, your growth really starts to take off. And so that would be a little bit of, I guess, my words of wisdom there.
Fantastic. And we've got a few minutes. If you guys want to still hit me up on the private message or on the Twitter space, I can keep my eye on it while I lead the next idea. We're thinking of for next week talking about, do they really need to pick a major for right now? They're so young. They're eighth, ninth, 10th, 11th graders coming in and having to declare their degree. And I always told a story that, we've never put a lot of pressure on them because we really believe there's a route to the degree as you go through life and grow up a little bit. So we don't put a lot on that. We had one young lady that really wanted to study signing for the deaf, and that was kind of a hard one for me. Like there was really no other coursework. It wasn't like, communications will get you there and then you get a master's. So, and then I just looked at her profile today and she's now physical therapy. So there you have it.
Yeah.
There's just so much life in between, but we're kind of looking for an academic person or somebody that's helped, career guide them into the right lane because they do get selected into a college for their major. So often it might be a better advantage to stay undeclared. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that if you want to go into the biologies and I want to get in like, kinesiology, I want to do those things like you really need to get into that first year and you need to figure out if you can handle that or not. And that's always, those classes, those biology classes, they start to really separate people pretty early. I want to come in, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a physical therapist, I want to be, and you start to get into some of those classes and you're like, oh man, this is weeding me out, pretty quickly here. And then people change their majors quite quickly because that is a big commitment on that side of it. And I think for those people that want to do that nursing, you want to get into that, like you have to be really honest with your coaching staff and, make sure that you find time. I mean, we have players that they may not come to practice on certain days because they need library time, and that's really, really important. So, I think the average changing of majors is probably 3, 4, or 5 times, while you're at school, and that's what school is all about is trying to figure it out. But for those ones that get very specific, and they know what they want, they need to dig into it their freshman year so they're not behind already. And I think that's that open conversation with your coaches, because then I can get some maybe summer school training or, I can do some things that can help me. So now I laid out my path. So, it isn't so tough to continue to do what I want to do. But I agree, I think that, a lot of our players, you get into take some classes and your eyes open up to like, oh, I didn't really know this was a career and I want to jump into it. And that's definitely what student services are for. And athletic departments have opportunities to get internships and grow. And that's just, again, another really cool thing about being a student athlete.
Excellent. And I think we'll take this as our last one because it might be a very broad one. It's a general question. What kind of athlete do you recruit for your program? Is there a prototype that you look for?
I wouldn't say a prototype. I guess number one is we want people that want to be here. That's important. And two, and you said this earlier, like you've got to be able to compete at this level. So I think when you start to match those two things, and we're pretty honest in our recruiting and our conversations as a coaching staff, and because we want the best for the student athlete. You only get 4 years to play this amazing game. So if we we're not honest with you and you're not finding the right fit, you're not going to be happy because you're not going to get the chance to grow and play the game. So I think there's a very honest approach to it on that side of it and the fit. But I think if you're to look at our team over time, we're usually pretty athletic and pretty versatile. I think that's important as a player to have versatility. The more versatility you have, the more opportunities you have to play at the school that you want to play at. Because if you can hit, you can play a lot of different positions. Or if you're a pitcher that can hit, or if you're a pitcher that, maybe has the ability to defend, like, you bring some different things, then that really helps. And so I guess that would be a little bit of what we have here. But I just think the honest part's the biggest part.
Yes, and I agree. And we've always said talent, and then the layer that your travel ball team plays at, because you can't be at all sporting events across the country all summer long when you have three people on staff. So some of that comes into play, and I think some of that is an organic vetting up that happens in travel balls. You have relationships, and you know the layer you're looking for. Are you ever stuck in a regional type of play? I know you do get a lot of Florida players, but do you search in other regions?
Yeah, I mean, we have players from Virginia, we've had Texas, we have California, we've had, I mean, obviously Florida, and being a little bit of South Georgia here, Georgia's been a big one for us too. So we have Arkansas players, so we have a kid from New York, like, so, I think, again, if you're pretty open to conversations, and for us, I think camps and clinics are really, really important because we get to know the players, but the players get to know us. So again, I go back to, like, man, we could really want you, but do you really want to work with us as hitting coaches or pitching coaches, or because that is the biggest part of your growth and what you want to do. So camps and clinics give that chance to really have good interactions, and good interactions with the current players. They give off a vibe too, and that's important. So I think they're good ways to help your recruiting process.
I love it, and that's where I see the culture is those players want to protect the culture. They want the right kids coming into their team, and to keep that spirit alive. So, Coach Alameda, I unless you have something else to say, I want to thank you for tonight, and just we're honored to have you. I consider you a longtime friend and appreciate everything that you do. And we are going to definitely see you out there at those tournaments this summer. But any final thoughts?
No, thank you. This was quite fun, and I appreciate you and everyone that's all of us, we're a little part of growing this game. So just the positivity is really awesome. So thank you very much.
We appreciate it. Thank you so much. Have a good night. And if anybody had anything else they want to bring, they can throw it on my private message and be happy to answer back. Have a great night, everybody, and see you next week.